After a car accident, I was sent back to my high school days. As soon as I returned, I saw my elder brother leading a group of wealthy young men bullying Gu Jin. My elder brother threw Gu Jin's textbooks into the lake, grabbed his collar, and laughed arrogantly. "Come on, make a dog's bark and let us hear it." Who would have thought that this penniless young man in front of us would later become a business tycoon, drive my family into bankruptcy, and force me to be his canary? Having a second chance at life, I must stop my elder brother from courting disaster and, at the same time, try my best to please the vengeful Mr. Gu. 01. I was reborn, and when I woke up, I saw my elder brother bullying Gu Jin. My elder brother, Zhang Baichen, is a young master from a wealthy family. He bullies others by relying on his family's power and is really not a good person. Zhang Baichen threw Gu Jin's textbooks into the lake, grabbed his collar, and asked him to bark like a dog. The surrounding classmates let out harsh laughter, while Gu Jin endured it without saying a word, until Zhang Baichen sneered evilly. "Gu Jin, I heard that your mother is a foolish woman who picks up trash. I don't know which man bullied her and made her give birth to you. You're a dirty and disgusting bastard. Just being around you makes me feel cheap." Suddenly, Gu Jin was like a rabid wild dog, his eyes bloodshot, and he punched my elder brother in the face. My elder brother had practiced fighting hard and had never lost a fight before, yet, he was caught off guard by Gu Jin's punch. Gu Jin fought without any rules, relying solely on his ferocity. When he went crazy, he didn't care about his own life. This scared my elder brother's lackeys so much that they didn't dare to step forward. Soon, my elder brother was at a disadvantage. I had just been reborn and was still digesting the scene in front of me, like someone waking up from a dream. I rushed forward and hugged Gu Jin's arm. "Stop fighting." In my memory, Gu Jin often worked out, and his arms were stronger than those of an ordinary teenager. Every time the man came to the villa to see me, I couldn't get any sleep. Even crying and begging for mercy didn't help. It would only make him angrier. Those memories were deeply ingrained in my bones. When our eyes met, I instinctively feared him. Gu Jin's body visibly stiffened. The ferocity on his face hadn't faded away. But he finally stopped. His gaze shifted to my arm, and his black eyes trembled slightly. There were several scars across my white arm, which were whipped by my father with a belt. Why was I beaten? I remembered. It was because Gu Jin got the first place in the exam, and I dropped to the second place. My father punished me for that. My father, Zhang Jianming, advocated elite education and had very strict requirements for my elder brother and me. He didn't allow me to lose to a poor boy. My elder brother thus hated Gu Jin and took the lead in bullying him. In my previous life, although I had dissuaded my elder brother from doing this, I was also somewhat resentful and unwilling. In the end, I didn't intervene in this matter, so when Gu Jin took his revenge later, I was also punished and became a little thing for him to relieve his desires. I pulled down my sleeve to cover the scars. Gu Jin silently jumped into the water to fish out the textbooks. On the other side, a group of people were fawning over Zhang Baichen. Zhang Baichen covered his nose that was bleeding nonstop, burning with anger. He wanted to fight again. I stopped him, feeling both distressed and angry. "Brother, stop here." "I can't stop. I will definitely find a chance to teach him a good lesson next time." Zhang Baichen spat out a mouthful of blood foam and walked towards the infirmary surrounded by his followers. I was about to follow him to the infirmary when I looked back. I saw Gu Jin climbing onto the shore. There were injuries on his face, and the textbooks in his hand were already soaked and damaged. He clenched his fists. The blue veins on his arms were clearly visible, and water was dripping from his body. Well, he was a proper beautiful young man with battle injuries. Why should I accompany this annoying brother? The most important thing now is to quench the little spark of hatred in Gu Jin's heart. 02. I sneaked behind Gu Jin to confirm his home address. And then I ran to the pharmacy to buy medicine for treating wounds and band-aids. I knocked on his door tremblingly. It was an aunt who opened the door. When the aunt saw me, she smiled and pulled me into the house. "Come and have some dumplings." Gu Jin's home was an old, shabby, and small house. The furnishings were simple, but it was very tidy. Gu Jin heard the commotion and came out of the bathroom. He was only wearing a pair of jeans and no shirt. The young man had a tall and slender figure. Due to working all year round, there was a layer of beautiful muscles on his body. He was thin but not weak. "What are you doing here?" "This is for you." I pointed at his face. "You need to deal with the wound." "No need, you're not welcome here." Gu Jin grabbed the back of my collar and lifted me out. The aunt grabbed my arm and said stubbornly, "Have some dumplings." My arm hurt from being grabbed by the aunt. Gu Jin immediately let go of me, looking a bit irritated. "My mother. If you don't mind, stay for dinner, otherwise, she'll make a fuss for a long time." I happily agreed. and the aunt went to the kitchen to serve the dumplings. Gujin put on his clothes, and the three of us sat together for the meal. Many of the dumplings in the bowl were broken during cooking. The chives, eggs, and flour were mixed together. They didn't look good and were a bit salty. I had lived a life of luxury since I was a child. Even when my family went bankrupt later and I was forced to be with Gujin, he had never treated me badly in terms of material things. Such unpalatable dumplings were really hard for me to swallow. However, Gujin ate them with great relish. The aunt stroked his head. Her innocent face was full of kindness. Happy birthday, Xiaojin. Grow up well and be obedient. The coldness in Gujin's eyes dissipated. Looking at his mother, his eyes were very gentle. I looked at him and couldn't help but smile. If you can't get used to it, give it to me. You don't have to force yourself. My mother's mind is a bit confused, and she doesn't cook very well. I can eat it. I ate a small half bowl. I really couldn't eat any more, so I quietly pushed the bowl over. He accepted it all and finished it in 2 or 3 bites. Gujin seemed quite easy to get along with at this moment. Taking the opportunity, I said, "My elder brother was too excessive today. I apologize to you on his behalf." Gujin's face immediately turned cold. He is him, and you are you. It has nothing to do with you. So, Gujin is a person who clearly distinguishes between grudges and kindness. He won't take his anger out on me because of my elder brother. Then, later. What exactly did my elder brother do that was so excessive that it made Gujin hate the Zhang family so much? It made Gujin lie low for many years. It wasn't enough to drive my family bankrupt. He also made my father and elder brother get involved in lawsuits, burdened with heavy debts, and with nowhere to make a living, and I was also forcefully possessed by him. Every time I interacted with him, I could feel his overwhelming hatred for the Zhang family. 03. The next day, I got up very early and put the new textbooks in Gujin's desk compartment. When I turned around, I bumped into a hard chest. Due to the height difference, I only reached his chest. I was startled and leaned backward. The young man put his arm around my waist. "You got the first place in the exam and still come so early. You're really competitive." I pushed him away in a panic. "I'll go and do some practice questions right away. I definitely won't lose to you next time." Gujin grabbed the back of my collar and glanced at the textbooks. "Thank you." "Okay, you're welcome." I left quickly with an awkward gait, touching my hot cheeks. Why was I blushing? He's just a young lad who hasn't grown up yet. I lay on the desk. It wasn't because of shyness that I blushed. I had a fever. Zhang Baichen is going to mess with Gujin again. He tricked Gujin's foolish mother into coming to the school to collect the garbage. What does Gujin's foolish mother look like? Let's go and take a look. I ran out. There were a lot of people gathered beside the school store. Zhang Baichen threw a soda bottle at the aunt's feet. "Trash picker. Pick it up." The aunt hunched over with a look of fear on her face. She was very scared and made a whimpering sound. When I arrived, I smelled the stench of urine. "Ha ha ha, Brother Chen, you scared her so much that she peed her pants. What bad luck." Zhang Baichen threw another soda bottle at the aunt's feet, and the glass shattered everywhere. "Brother, stop." I rushed to the aunt's side. She was still leaking urine. A group of people surrounded us, watching the scene. I took off my coat, tied it around her waist, and took her hand. "Auntie, don't be afraid, I'll take you." Bang! Gujin rushed out and kicked Zhang Baichen in the lower back. Zhang Baichen fell onto the broken glass. Gujin's kick was so powerful that Zhang Baichen couldn't stand up for a while. He wasn't a cowardly person. He had endured before just for the sake of studying. On the contrary, Gujin's character was actually a bit crazy. I remembered once when I went to a cocktail party with him, someone made improper remarks about me. He flew into a rage and broke the person's ribs. At this moment, Gujin's eyes were bloodshot, and there was a fierce aura of a desperate man about him. He picked up the broken bottle and walked towards Zhang Baichen. Zhang Baichen was scared. What are you going to do? What are you all standing there for? He's crazy. Hurry up and stop him for me." No one dared to stop a crazy man who didn't care about his own life. Actually, I was also afraid of him, but I had to stop him. I rushed forward and hugged his waist tightly, burying my face in his chest with my eyes closed. "Gujin, don't." The muscles on his body were tense, and his breathing was heavy. I started crying. "Don't do anything stupid. Take your mother home quickly." I stroked his back, trying to soothe his rampaging soul. Pat. Gujin finally threw away the glass, and blood dripped from his palm. I watched as he supported his mother and walked away until I couldn't see them anymore. In my previous life, this incident didn't happen today. "Brother." Zhang Baichen pushed me away, his eyes sinister. "He's finished." My heart skipped a beat. Clearly, I had stopped my elder brother from courting disaster twice. Why did I have an ominous premonition that our fate hadn't changed and was still sliding towards the predetermined ending. 04. I knocked on Gu Jin's door. He was wearing rubber gloves and washing my coat. The aunt was asleep in the room. I grabbed his wrist and took off the gloves. His hand was simply wrapped with gauze, and it was still bleeding. Are you a masochist? Your hand is like this, and you're still washing clothes. I felt dizzy for a moment and fell into his arms, losing consciousness. When I woke up, it was already getting dark. The lights weren't on in the hospital room. Gu Jin was sitting by the bedside, and his rough palm touched my forehead. My head was burning, and I was so dizzy that I thought I was before my rebirth. Gu Jin hated the Zhang family and only regarded me as a plaything, humiliating my father and elder brother by keeping me as his captive. However, every time I was sick, Gu Jin would be particularly gentle with me. He would patiently feed me medicine and food. Like a male nanny, patients are always delicate, so I took the initiative to hug his neck and acted coquettishly. I feel so uncomfortable. Hug me. After a long while, his voice was hoarse. Zhang Yihuan, I'm Gu Jin. Then, I woke up completely. I let go of him, feeling so embarrassed that my toes curled up. I actually mistook the young Gu Jin for Mr. Gu. Gu Jin turned on the light. Thinking about how I had just acted coquettishly in a very soft voice towards a young man I wasn't very familiar with, I really didn't know where to put my face. Gu Jin had no expression on his face, but his ears were so red that they seemed to be bleeding. In my previous life, no matter how intense our arguments were, he rarely showed any expression. The sign to tell whether he was happy or not was whether his ears were red enough. I covered my face. What are you thinking about? Don't think nonsense. Okay, I won't. 05. After my fever subsided, I rested at home for half a day and didn't go to school until the afternoon. As soon as I entered the classroom, my deskmate, Zhao Xiaoxing, gossiped with me that Gu Jin you hate so much was caught stealing the class funds. There were two rumors in her words. First, I don't hate him, I want to please him. Second, Gu Jin wouldn't steal money. I remembered that in my previous life, there was indeed this incident of Gu Jin stealing the class funds. At that time, I went to the teacher's office to hand in my homework. His homeroom teacher slapped the table. Gu Jin, you've really disappointed me. I know your family is poor, but you can't steal money. You have talent but no virtue. You'll be a scourge in society even if you have abilities. The girl beside them, who should be the class life committee member, chimed in. That's right, if you don't have money, you can tell us. We can donate money to help you. You really didn't have to steal. Gu Jin stood straight, his thin lips tightly pursed, with a look of contempt and indifference on his face. I despised him in my heart. What was the use of getting better grades than me? Without good character, he was nothing. Suddenly, Gu Jin saw me, and his face changed drastically. He strode up to me. It's not like this. I didn't steal. I didn't want to pay attention to him and turned around to leave. Gu Jin went crazy and grabbed my arm with great strength. The injury on my arm hadn't healed yet, and I struggled. Whether you stole or not has nothing to do with me. Let me go. The teacher came over to pull him away, but he held on tighter and tighter and just wouldn't let go. Gu Jin fell into a state of paranoia. He stared at me intently, his eyes red. Zhang Yihuan, what on earth do I have to do for you to believe me? I really didn't steal the money. I didn't understand. Why was Gu Jin so persistent in wanting me to believe him? I didn't even really know him. I was almost scared to tears and said timidly, I believe you. Let go quickly. It hurts so much where you're holding me. Finally, he let go. In my previous life, the disciplinary action result was that Gu Jin received a warning for the demerit. 06. Remembering Gu Jin's almost desperate look at that time, my heart ached. I immediately went to find Gu Jin and met my annoying brother in the corridor. Zhang Baichen had his arm around a girl, who was the class life committee member of Gu Jin's class. Huan, this is your new sister-in-law. After Zhang Baichen left, I smiled at the girl. Tell me quickly, how did you help my brother mess with Gu Jin? The girl wanted to curry favor with me and said proudly, I put the class funds in his desk compartment, and then I pretended that the class funds were missing. We searched the desk compartments one by one, and we caught him red-handed. Sure enough, Gu Jin was framed by my elder brother. I took out my phone and waved it in front of the girl. I just recorded it. You have 10 minutes to confess to the teacher. Otherwise, I'll play this recording on a loop at the school radio station. Your elder brother told me to do this. Why are you helping an outsider? I imitated Mr. Gu's expression and said coldly. You still have 9 minutes and 40 seconds. The girl looked panicked and ran towards the teacher's office. Actually, I didn't record it just now. I was bluffing her. During the second class break, the news spread. The class life committee member of Gu Jin's class went to the teacher and said that the class funds had been found. The money in Gu Jin's desk compartment was his own, and they had misunderstood him before. Zhang Baichen called me to the rooftop. Zhang Yihuan, are you crazy? If he hadn't taken your first place, would you have been beaten by Dad? I was avenging you, but why are you siding with an outsider? I let out a sigh and said, it's my dad's psychological problem that he hit me. What does it have to do with Gu Jin? You're the mastermind behind framing him for stealing money. By handling it this way, I'm already showing partiality to protect you, Zhang Baichen. Don't bully a young man just because he's poor. If you bully him now, he will take revenge on us in the future. Zhang Baichen looked unconvincing and said, just him. As things stand now, Zhang Baichen's intention to torment Gu Jin is no longer to avenge me. Violence is like a drug addiction. Once it starts, there will be no bottom line. Give me your phone. Zhang Baichen took my phone, threw it against the wall, and stomped on it twice with force. Don't interfere next time I deal with him. In my previous life, I went abroad to study before finishing my senior year of high school, so I don't know how Zhang Baichen plotted against Gu Jin later. 07. The wall of the rooftop was curved, blocking the view. After Zhang Baichen left, Gu Jin came out from the other side of the rooftop. I was stunned. Had he heard everything just now? Gu Jin rolled up my sleeves. The higher he rolled, the denser the scars became. My skin was very fair, making the scars look even more ferocious. Besides your arm, where else do you have injuries on your body? He only hit my arm. I want to dance, and my dad was afraid that others would see the injuries. I looked into Gu Jin's eyes. His eyes were red, and there were tears in them. Mr. Gu, aren't you going to cry? Then, Gu Jin pressed my head against his chest and hugged me. Does your dad often hit you? I evaded his question and said brightly, I'm not the same person I used to be. If he hits me, I will fight back. I'll call the police or tell the elders in our clan, and he definitely won't dare to do it again. When I was young, I didn't dare to resist because I was afraid that my dad would abandon me if I did. But now, my soul is already 28 years old. I'm no longer afraid of patriarchal power and know how to fight back. There's a third option. The young man's tears dripped onto my neck, which was enough to shock me for a long time. Tell me, and I'll beat him up. Hitting people is against the law. Then let it be against the law. I smiled and stroked his back, touched by the young man's enthusiasm. 08. Gu Jin picked up the broken phone. I'll fix it for you. Can you fix it even though it's broken like this? Yeah. After school, Gu Jin and I went home together. He took out a toolbox and fixed my phone for me. He had all the necessary parts. He soldered the circuit board and even replaced the display screen with a new one for me. You're so amazing. It's not difficult. I learned phone repair to earn money. Besides going to school, Gu Jin also had to earn money to support his family. Then how much should I pay you, Master Gu? I won't charge you. Then I invite you to watch me dance. I'm going to participate in a dance competition next Saturday. Will you come? Yes. 09. The dance competition was held in the opera house. To my surprise, I saw Qin Zishu in the first row of the audience. In my previous life, we met when our two families had a dinner together. In this life, the time of our first encounter was advanced, and the scene was also different. Memories of my previous life came flooding back. Qin Zishu at the age of 18 loved me very much and followed me to study abroad. He courted me very romantically for a year, and we got together naturally. However, the good times didn't last long. In the third year of our relationship, he cheated on me. After I exposed him, he said, I just can't manage to love only you. It's not that I don't love you anymore. You will always be Mrs. Qin. What are you still fussing about? I broke up with him decisively, feeling that I had wasted 3 years of my youth. When I saw Qin Zishu at the age of 18 again, I felt physically uncomfortable, and my hands and feet turned cold. Gu Jin supported me. He followed my gaze but didn't ask anything. Instead, he helped me to the backstage. Gu Jin poured me a cup of hot water. Do you feel better? Yeah, I'm already okay. You can go and sit in the audience. I'm about to go on stage. I changed into my dance clothes and walked onto the stage. Gu Jin sat in the back row, hidden in the light and shadow, but I still saw him at a glance. I smiled at him and somehow felt at ease. Dance, I want to win. When the music started, I forgot all the entanglements of my previous and present lives. Focused on the world of dance, and showed off my beauty. As soon as the dance ended, there was thunderous applause. The chandelier in the opera house lit up. I looked at Gu Jin, and we looked at each other from a distance, with my eyes misty with tears. Gu Jin was stunned and frowned as he looked at me. The audience thought that I was crying because I was so immersed in the dance and moved by the story of the dance music. In fact, I was crying out of joy. This dance was dedicated to Gu Jin. I wanted him to see how beautiful I was in my teenage years. In my previous life, he never saw me dance even once. He really missed out. I was very excited right after the dance. I heard the obsession buried deep in my heart. Gu Jin, how can you not love me? I don't want to be your canary. I don't want to be a little thing for you to satisfy your physical needs. I want to be your white moonlight, making you respect and love me, but reluctant to touch me. I also want to be a seductive fairy who bewitches you, possessing all your desires and making you unable to leave me, never be able to leave me. After being reborn, it's true that I want to stop Zhang Baichen from courting disaster, and it's true that I want to protect Gu Jin, but I'm like a ghost. I made a wish to the gods to ease the resentment in my heart. What the soul in this teenage body truly wants is to have all of the love of my previous life's lover. 10. I won the first place, Qin Zixu. As the representative of the sponsor, came onto the stage to present the award to me, Yuri Huan, right, Uncle Zhang recently asked my father for investment, and our two families will have more interactions in the future. Qin Zixu took out his phone, looking determined. Is it convenient for you to give me your phone number? Scumbag, go away, go away, go away. It's not convenient, I don't want to get to know you. I saw Gu Jin walking to the side of the stage, like a little crazy person. I directly jumped off the stage. Gu Jin's eyes showed panic, but he caught me firmly. I wrapped my arms around his neck. Mr. Gu, was my dance look good? His heart was pounding like a drum, his ears were red as if they were bleeding, and he looked at me without blinking. It was beautiful. My dance dress was a backless one, made of thin fabric, which showed off my figure very well. Gu Jin took off his black hoodie and put it on me. He pulled the zipper up high, almost choking me. Gu Jin looked at Qin Zixu on the stage, tilted his head, and his eyes were fierce and wild, just like a little wolf dog. 11. On the way back, I was in an excited state all the time. Yihuan, let me treat you to a meal to celebrate your award. Okay, what do you want to eat? Barbecued meat. Let's bring Auntie with us. The three of us sat in a barbecue restaurant. Gu Jin was busy grilling the meat and feeding me and his mother. Under the table, my knee was touching his knee. Gu Jin's ears became redder and redder, and he looked at me thoughtfully. I wrapped a large piece of streaky pork with lettuce. My mouth was stuffed like a little hamster, looking like an innocent and ignorant teenage girl. Auntie ate very gracefully, judging from her eyebrows and eyes. She must have been a beauty when she was young. That's why she gave birth to such a handsome son as Gu Jin. Auntie, do you remember who I am? Auntie smiled shyly and said seriously, you're Xiaojin's wife. Cough cough cough, get married on the spot. Xiaojin likes you very much, Auntie said and took out a ring to put it on my finger. My Xiaojin is a stubborn child. Once he likes someone, he will never change his heart. You two should live a good life together. I looked at the huge plastic ring on my ring finger. Was this a toy for children to play with? Mom, she's not my wife. She's my classmate, Zhang Yihuan. Gu Jin looked up at me and coughed dryly. Don't mind, my mom is just speaking without thinking. I took a sip of water tactically. Auntie is very cute. Suddenly, I remembered that Auntie passed away from illness very early, so I reminded him, as people get older, their bodies are more prone to problems. You should take Auntie for regular medical checkups. Gu Jin took it to heart and nodded in agreement. 12. My annoying brother and I are fraternal twins, and we celebrate our birthdays together every year. Zhang Baichen held a birthday party and invited a group of friends to come and have fun. I wore a beautiful dress and put on a light makeup. When I walked into the private room, I saw Qin Zixu. Zhang Baichen put his arm around Qin Zixu's shoulder. Huan, young Master Qin arranged this birthday party for you. Do you like it? The room was filled with roses, decorated in a dreamy and romantic way. Qin Zixu walked up to me with an exquisite jewelry box. Huan, happy birthday. This is a gift for you. Open it and take a look. If I had known he was coming, I wouldn't have come. It's so annoying. Everyone cheered and clapped, and the atmosphere was warm and ambiguous. I was about to pick up the fruit wine on the table and pour it on him. At this moment, Gu Jin walked in carrying a fruit plate. It turned out that Gu Jin was working here. Zhang Baichen deliberately chose this place to hold the birthday party and continued to test the limits of courting disaster. Yo! Isn't this the top student Gu? You're serving dishes here. The wealthy young men around burst into laughter, acting as superior onlookers. How much money can you earn a day by serving dishes? Zhang Baichen took out a stack of 100 yuan bills and threw them at Gu Jin. It's my birthday today. If you serve me well and make me happy, all this money will be yours. My fists clenched, and I laughed out of extreme anger. No, I'm very satisfied with him. He belongs to me tonight. In front of everyone with their jaws dropped in surprise, I grabbed Gu Jin's hand and walked angrily to the lobby. My brother is brainless, don't take it to heart. I patted his shoulder. The young man looked quite handsome in a suit, with his broad shoulders, narrow waist, and long legs. He had a bit of the air of Mr. Gu, the gentle scoundrel. Okay, you can go and get back to work, I'm leaving. Gu Jin grabbed my wrist, tore off his bow tie, and bent down to smile at me. That smile was really beautiful, with a bit of a cute and naughty look. Yihuan, I belong to you tonight. Me, was he serious? I thought Gu Jin would do something fancy, but he took me to buy groceries and then cooked for me at home. Why do you look so disappointed? All the high-quality ingredients on this table cost him 1,000 yuan, even considering the price level 10 years later. Spending 1,000 yuan on a meal is still very luxurious. I picked up the tenderest piece of meat from the East Star grouper and gave it to Auntie. I just think you're selling yourself a bit short. I'm willing to. After the meal, Gu Jin took out a cake and carefully inserted the candles. Auntie was like a child and clapped happily. Happy birthday, daughter-in-law. Early, Gu Jin quickly covered Auntie's mouth. Make a wish, have a baby soon. Auntie, you really are something. I closed my eyes and made a wish. He said, Zhang Yihuan, happy 18th birthday. I wished that every year in the future, Gu Jin would accompany Zhang Yihuan to celebrate her birthday. 13. The next day, I heard that there would be a basketball-friendly match between No. 1 Middle School and Jialan High School. Gu Jin participated in it, so I signed up for the cheerleading team. Zhao Xiaoxing was in charge of organizing the cheerleading team. The cheerleading uniforms she prepared were miniskirts paired with tight short-sleeved tops. When we got on the coach, all the players were in an uproar. I saw that the seat next to Gu Jin was empty, so I sat beside him. Gu Jin was wearing headphones, leaning his head back against the seat and resting with his eyes closed. His jawline was smooth, his Adam's apple was prominent, and he was wearing a basketball jersey. The muscle lines on his arms were strong, exuding a youthful and sexy charm. I poked the back of his hand. Can you share one of your earphones with me? Gu Jin opened his eyes and looked at me. His gaze lingered on my chest for a moment and then quickly moved away. He took off his earphones and handed them to me. I leaned close to his ear and joked, I'm dressed in a spicy girl style today. Does it look good? Gu Jin closed his eyes and ignored me, but his ears turned red. It was familiar jazz music. His taste hadn't changed over the years. In the lazy singing, memories welled up in my heart. In the villa, the man held me and kissed me passionately. Are you in a good mood today? Gu Jin touched the back of my neck. Not bad. Then, can I ask you for a favor? Go ahead. My brother was tricked by his friend and owes 3 million yuan in usury. My dad was so angry about this that he got sick. Can you help my brother? Gu Jin immediately turned cold. Let go of me. And got up to put on his clothes. Seeing that he was about to leave, I got out of bed barefoot. My brother bullied you, and he was in the wrong. You've already taken your revenge. Can't you spare him a way out? Gu Jin picked me up in his arms and let out a tired sigh. Yihuan, for your sake, I've already spared them a way out. The man kissed away my tears. Don't cry. It's just 3 million yuan. This is the last time. I was very happy and took the initiative once. But when I woke up in the middle of the night, Gu Jin wasn't by my side. I went downstairs in my pajamas. Gu Jin was sitting in the living room drinking. In the huge living room, he looked even more lonely. There was hatred and pain on Gu Jin's face. He clenched the wine glass tightly. The blue veins on his hand were throbbing. With a crisp sound, the wine glass shattered, and his hand was bleeding, but he didn't seem to care, as if he had found an outlet to release his pain. He picked up the broken glass and made a cut on his arm. It turned out that helping my brother made him so painful. I covered my mouth, hid behind the staircase railing, and tears streamed down my face. Do you get carsick? I came back to my senses and met the young man's concerned gaze. My face must have been very pale. Gu Jin unscrewed a bottle of mineral water and handed it to me. If you feel really uncomfortable, you can lean on my shoulder. I leaned on his shoulder, and the knot in my heart quickly dissipated. 14. Jialan High School is a prestigious school, and the facilities of the basketball court are very advanced. The stadium was filled with students. As the host, Jialan High School had a great home court advantage. Qin Zishu was the captain of the Jialan High School basketball team, and he was also the school heartthrob. All the girls in the stadium were shouting his name. Qin Zishu saw me and ran up to me. Huan Huan, you look really beautiful today. Don't call me Huan Huan, I'm not familiar with you. Qin Zishu grabbed my arm. Do you have some misunderstanding about me? Gu Jin pried Qin Zishu's hand away and said coldly, don't touch girls inappropriately. She said she's not familiar with you. Qin Zishu walked away with a face. Before the game started, the cheerleading team went onto the court to perform a cheerleading routine. Who is that girl leading the exercise in No. 1 middle school? She's so pretty, she's Zhang Yihuan. The school beauty of No. 1 middle school, she's so cute. Ah, she looked at me. Baby Yihuan, brother loves you. After I finished the cheerleading routine and went off the court, Gu Jin and his team came on. When we passed by each other, I said to Gu Jin, come on, okay, Zhao Xiaoxing said excitedly. When you were doing the cheerleading, everyone was fascinated by you. Did you see that? The cheerleaders from Jialan High School were so angry that their noses were almost crooked. I looked at the cheerleading team of Jialan High School. Sure enough, those girls were glaring at me with malicious eyes. I didn't care and focused on watching Gu Jin play basketball. Damn, is Gu Jin this fierce? His playing style is so aggressive. Qin Zishu can't even touch the ball. He has such good physical strength. I just realized today that Gu Jin is so handsome. Listening to others' praises of Gu Jin, I felt proud. He is indeed excellent. When the game ended, we won. Gu Jin became the top scorer of the game. His teammates surrounded him and regarded him as a hero. The young man I love should be this dazzling. I really wanted to rush up, hug him tightly, and kiss him hard. 15. We had finished the water we brought, and Zhao Xiaoxing asked me to go buy water with her. When we reached the grocery store, we were blocked by those girls from the cheerleading team of Jialan High School. Zhang Yihuan, you seem very proud today. I protected Xiaoxing behind me and said, a good dog doesn't block the way, move aside. They pushed me to the ground, and the leading girl poured milk on my face. Look at your senior Qin has been seduced by you. You dare to call us dogs. Come on, make a dog's bark and let us hear it. I was stunned and thought of Gu Jin. So this was what it felt like to be bullied. Feeling ashamed, angry, and helpless, the girl raised her hand to slap me. A slender hand with well-defined joints grabbed her wrist. Gu Jin's eyes were red. And he restrained himself, shaking off the girl. Scram! The girls were scared away by him. My chest was soaked with milk, and I was a bit exposed. Gu Jin took off his basketball jersey and put it on me. Can you stand up? Yeah, Gu Jin helped me stand up. Gritting his teeth, he cursed. I imitated him and also cursed. Gu Jin was stunned and finally smiled. He went to buy water and a towel and gently wiped my face and hair. Zhao Xiaoxing stood there dumbfounded, looking shocked throughout. Back in the classroom, Zhao Xiaoxing asked 3 consecutive questions. Didn't you hate Gu Jin? When did you two get so close? The way he looks at you, is it what I think it is? I grasped the key point. What's wrong with the way he looks at me, like melted cheese? Me, it's so affectionate. The corners of my mouth turned up, but the way I looked at him wasn't innocent either. 16. When I got home, I saw Qin Zishu and his parents. In my previous life, we just met for the first time today, during the dinner. When it came to the matter of me going to study at Berkeley College of Music, Qin Zishu immediately said that he also had a plan to study abroad. In my previous life, I had already experienced studying abroad, and there was no need to do it again. In this life, I want to go to university with Gu Jin. After the Qin family left, I began to persuade Zhang Jianming, Dad, many people in China don't know much about prestigious foreign universities. If we go to study abroad without taking the college entrance examination, others will think we got in with money. It's not as prestigious as getting into Tsinghua University or Peking University. Zhang Jianming cared most about face. He thought for a moment, if you can really get into Tsinghua University or Peking University, then go and study there. After all, Tsinghua University and Peking University are also quite good. However, a rumor spread in the school that the school heartthrob of Jialan High School was chasing the school beauty of No. 1 middle school, and he wanted to go to study in Country M with me. I was too lazy to pay attention to Qin Zishu. Let him go to study abroad by himself. My attention was all on Gu Jin. 17. During the summer vacation of senior year of high school, Gu Jin started his first business venture. With the money he had saved from working part-time in the past few years, he established an electronics factory, hired 7 or 8 workers, and took on outsourcing orders for mobile phone refurbishment. This year had the same historical background as the movie Nice View. Smartphones hadn't been popularized yet, and refurbished phones with affordable prices had a good market. Each era has different opportunities. Gu Jin has a keen business sense. Later, he also caught up with the internet boom and became a business tycoon in just a few years. Gu Jin received a large order, and after completing it, he could make a profit of 200,000 yuan. He worked overtime with the workers. Even after the workers got off work, he was still working overtime, and his eyes were bloodshot from exhaustion. Gu Jin, pay attention to taking a rest. Don't wear yourself out, Yihuan. I'm really Too poor. I want to make money, a lot of money. You can make money gradually. He looked at me with an enigmatic gaze. No, I can't be any slower. I just felt, presumably, he had endured a lot of hardships along the way. I raised my hand and touched the back of the young man's neck. Gujin, in the future, you will achieve success and fame, and you will get everything you want, so, don't push yourself too hard. Okay, I will. Although Gujin promised me, he still went his own way and worked overtime, staying up late. Finally, Gujin completed the order on schedule. 18. On the day of delivery, Gujin called me. Ihuan, yeah, I will have money, and I will become someone worthy of you. Gujin's voice even had a hint of a sob, yet it was extremely firm. Ihuan, please wait for me a little longer, okay? Somehow, I suddenly remembered the scene of the last time I went to school in my previous life. After I finished my business, I was walking out. It was raining at that time. Suddenly, Gujin ran out in the rain. Are you leaving? Yeah. I gripped the strap of my school bag tightly, really afraid that he would go crazy again. Then, will you come back? Perhaps because I was about to leave my hometown, I felt a bit more sentimental, and my attitude towards him became a little better. I walked closer to him and held an umbrella for him. Under the same umbrella, I looked up at him. The raindrops dripped down along his chin. The young man's expression was indifferent, but his eyes were so sad. Of course I will come back. How many years? In how many years will you come back? 3 years, 5 years, it's not certain. At this moment, Zhang Chenbai called me. Huan, what are you wasting your breath on with this lunatic? Let's go. I smiled at Gujin and stuffed the umbrella into his hand. Gujin, I wish you success in the college entrance examination. Goodbye. The memory stopped abruptly. A flash of inspiration came to my mind. Perhaps, in my previous life, Gujin had liked me. That's why when he was framed for stealing money, he was so persistent in seeking my trust. That's why when I went to study abroad, he looked so sad, and at that time, influenced by my elder brother, I really hated him. Remembering the recent rumor in school that I was going to study abroad with Qin Zixu, was there also such a rumor in my previous life? So from his perspective, did he think I was going to study abroad with the person I liked? Gujin, so you worked so hard to make money, besides wanting to give Auntie a better life, was I also a factor? Because my family is rich, you felt inferior and thought you needed to make a lot of money to be worthy of me. There was silence on the other end of the phone. I pressed on. Gujin, answer me. Yes, I smiled with misty eyes. Silly, I'm not going to study abroad with Qin Zixu. I'm not going to study abroad anymore. This time, let's take the college entrance examination and get into Tsinghua University or Peking University together. After saying that, I quickly hung up the phone. My heart was pounding like a drum, and my cheeks were burning hot. Anyway, this counts as my confession first. 19. I went downstairs, planning to have a glass of ice water to calm down. Xiaochen, I heard that there's a young lad named Gujin who took your company's order. I'd like to ask you to cancel the order. Ha ha ha. Okay, we can talk about that project you mentioned last time again. My dad hung up the phone, and my elder brother said proudly, Dad, you really have a way. This time, Dad avenged you. Learn from this in the future. Only barbarians solve problems by fighting. I clenched my fists. I never expected that my dad would help my elder brother deal with a high school student. I quietly went upstairs and called Gujin, but the phone couldn't get through anymore. When I rushed to the factory, Gujin wasn't there. As if that wasn't enough, at this very moment, something happened to Auntie. She fell down and had a cerebral hemorrhage. She urgently needed 100,000 yuan for the surgery. So, in my previous life, my dad and my elder brother messed up Gujin's order, making him unable to afford the surgery fee and causing Auntie's death. No wonder Gujin hated the Zhang family so much. No wonder, when I asked him to take out 3 million yuan to help my elder brother pay off the usury, he was in so much pain. Back then, it was my father and elder brother who made him unable to even afford 100,000 yuan and made him watch helplessly as his mother died on the sickbed. This time is different. This time, he has me. I will definitely turn this situation around and change all of this. 20. I rushed to the hospital that the worker mentioned and met Gujin at the payment counter. He was calling Boss Chen. Boss Chen, all my goods have passed the inspection. Why did you break the contract? The other party could get greater benefits from my dad, so they must have said some unpleasant words. Gujin frowned. At this moment, he was willing to kneel to anyone. How about this? As long as you give me 100,000 yuan, you can take all these goods away. Even with such a concession, Boss Chen still hung up the phone. My mom passed away when I was very young. She left me a sum of inheritance, which I could freely dispose of when I turned 18. I paid the surgery fee for Auntie. Gu Jin watched me pay the fee without saying a word. Outside the operating room, Gu Jin stood there looking extremely tired. Yihuan, thank you. I will pay this money back as soon as possible. I hugged him tightly and stroked his back. Xiao Jin, don't be afraid, Auntie will be okay. Gu Jin froze, and then he hugged me and buried his face in my neck. He kept shaking. He was really afraid that his mother would die. In my previous life, when he faced all this alone, how desperate must he have been? 7 hours later, the surgery was over. The doctor said, the surgery was a success, and the patient is out of danger. The huge stone in my heart finally dropped. In this life, there is no deep-seated hatred between us, and he can finally love me wholeheartedly. 21. After many years, I have become Mrs. Gu. Back then, after Auntie recovered, I told Gu Jin what my father and elder brother had done. Gu Jin, through his own efforts, visited many companies and finally sold that batch of goods. I was completely disappointed in my father and elder brother and chose to live on campus. When the college entrance examination results came out, Gu Jin and I were both admitted to Tsinghua University or Peking University. Gu Jin built his fortune following the path of his previous life and became a business tycoon. We became the most envied couple among our classmates, going from school uniforms to wedding dresses. Zhao Xiaoxing was playing with my twin sons and teasing, Huan Huan, why are you pregnant again? Are you the type who can get pregnant just by being looked at by Mr. Gu? Actually, he was afraid that I would be in pain and didn't want me to have a second child, but I really want a daughter, so I used a little trick. Hee. Zhao Xiaoxing gave me a thumbs up. Can you believe it? The soft and cute school beauty Zhang in high school is so bold after marriage. That's right, living 2 lifetimes isn't for nothing. Stay overnight tonight, let's sleep together. Zhao Xiaoxing crossed her hands and refused. No way. Last time I slept at your place for 1 night, the way Mr. Gu looked at me clearly showed that he wanted to kill me. I laughed. Mr. Gu is a bit clingy. After my best friend left, my mother-in-law came back riding a tricycle. Over the years, my mother-in-law has always liked picking up trash. Aluminum cans and cardboard boxes are her favorites. I was worried about her, so I hired someone to accompany her when she picked up trash. Today, she had a great harvest and was stepping on aluminum cans in the courtyard of the villa. Our 3-year-old twin sons like stepping on aluminum cans the most. My mother-in-law and the children were having a great time. I wanted to help, but she immediately stopped me and pointed at my belly. There's a baby in there, daughter-in-law. Take a rest. My mother-in-law's mental state is similar to that of a 6 or 7-year-old child, and she can really play well with the children. I sat on the deck chair and watched them having fun. I felt a sense of contentment as if time was passing peacefully. 22. The doorbell rang, and my dad and my elder brother came. Recently, the Zhang Corporation, due to poor management, had its capital chain broken. They came to ask for money. I had already given them all the inheritance my mom left me, but it was still just a drop in the bucket and couldn't fill such a huge gap. When I saw them coming, I immediately asked the nanny to take my mother-in-law and the children inside. Zhang Jianming said dissatisfiedly, I came to see my grandchildren. As soon as I arrived, you asked someone to take the children away. What do you mean? If you just came to see the children, of course I would let you see them. I've given you all my money. If you came to ask for money, there's not a penny left. Zhang Baichen snorted coldly. Gu Jin is so rich. What's wrong with him helping the company? He doesn't owe you anything. Back then, you messed up his order and made him unable to afford the surgery fee. You almost killed his mother. Why should he help you? They had already killed her once. Seeing that I was emotional, my father and elder brother were afraid that I would get too worked up and harm the baby, so they left. Gu Jin's body visibly stiffened, and the ferocity on his face hadn't faded away, but he finally stopped. Just, Yihuan, why are you crying? Gu Jin came back. He squatted in front of me and wiped my tears. Is the baby making you uncomfortable? I pouted and hugged his neck. No, it's just, I suddenly missed you so much. Gu Jin sighed and said seriously, then I'll take paternity leave. I don't want to go to work for even a single day anymore. Pfft. I burst into laughter through my tears. Gu Jin is so smart that nothing can be hidden from him. At night, my elder brother sent me a message. Huan Huan. Gu Jin said he will help us this time, and it will also be the last time he helps us. Huan Huan. Brother knows he was wrong. It was my fault back then. Others all say that Gu Jin has a stubborn character and an even harder heart, but as soon as I cry, He softens his heart. Gujin brought me a glass of warm milk from downstairs and watched me drink it with a loving expression. He really is like a male nanny. Husband, when did you start liking me? At the opening ceremony of Senior 1. When you gave a speech as a freshman representative on the stage. Wife. I fell in love with you at first sight. It turns out that in both lifetimes, he has always loved me, only me. Story 2. It was the third year of being forcefully taken and I was reborn back to his teenage years. At this time, Fu Huai was just a poor student being bullied by others. This time, I didn't go to save him. I was so cowardly that I could only secretly watch from the corner. Until that time when he almost lost his life, my mind went blank, and I rushed over regardless, coming to his rescue. The next second, I was forcefully pulled into his arms, and his breath landed by my ear. Darling, why are you still soft-hearted? 01, Ran. The person being beaten seems to be that poor student in our class. My best friend's voice sounded beside me. She took a casual glance and tugged at me, wanting to leave. Let's stay away from them. It looked scary. The alley was filled with curses. Fu Huai curled up on the ground, his body covered in blue-purple bruises, just silently enduring the beating and scolding. You don't hand over the money honestly and even want to resist. Are you dumb? Why don't you speak? You must be taught a lesson today. I suddenly came to my senses, realizing that I had been reborn. Clearly, last night Fu Huai was still forcefully pinching my neck, gently smiling and leaving a passionate kiss on my lips, and I could only tilt my head and endure it. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn back 8 years ago. Perhaps I was in a daze for too long. The people in the alley seemed to notice us and were about to turn their heads to look over. I was startled and did something completely different from my previous life, ignoring my best friend's confusion. I suddenly pulled her up and hid in the corner behind the wall. In my previous life, I was a heroic and righteous person who saved him, but I didn't expect that I was provoking a mad dog, reborn back to his teenage years. At this time, Fu Huai was just a poor student being bullied by others, but when I thought of Fu Huai's cruel and unpredictable appearance in the future, and how he forcefully took me through an arranged marriage, I definitely didn't dare to provoke him again in this life, so I was so cowardly that I could only secretly watch him from the corner. And my eyes involuntarily fell on that embarrassed and pitiful figure. My best friend observed me for a long time and squinted her eyes, asking, "Oh, I know, Ning Ran. Do you want to save him?" I quickly retorted, Who wants to save him? I dodged her gaze, not daring to look at her. I won't save him. My best friend sized me up and down. You're acting strange. I pretended not to care, withdrew my gaze, and casually found an excuse to change the topic. Let's go quickly, or we'll be late for class. But I didn't notice that after I left, the person who fell on the ground suddenly raised his eyes. It was like a slippery and cold snake sliding inch by inch, landing on my departing back. 02. When I arrived at the classroom, I found that everyone was laughing and passing around something. A boy sneered and raised the envelope in his hand. Sister Ran, you're finally here. Guess what this is? I frowned and looked at the envelope, and my body suddenly froze. At the same time, he had already said it out loud. Ha ha ha, it's a love letter written to you by that poor student in our class. What a low-class person to dare to like Sister Ran. It makes me laugh. He's like a toad wanting to eat swan meat. In a flash, I suddenly remembered, in my previous life, it was also at this time that Fu Huai's love letter to me was discovered. Everyone was laughing at him, almost belittling him to the dust, and I had long been behavior of theirs. Coupled with various previous incidents, I felt that Fu Huai was very pitiful. On a whim, I accepted this love letter. The whole class never expected that I would agree to Fu Huai's confession. They dared to mock Fu Huai unscrupulously, but they didn't dare to provoke me, because my family was rich. So in my previous life, with me protecting Fu Huai, gradually no one dared to bully him anymore. However, at this moment, looking at this love letter, I just felt sweating all over. Fu Huai was still being beaten in the alley, so he couldn't come back for a while. While he was away, I had to solve this matter quickly. I immediately took a step forward, wanting to snatch the love letter. The boy raised his hand high, not giving it to me. Sister Ran, don't you want to hear what he wrote to you? I directly turned cold-faced. Give it to me. Don't make me say it a second time. He pouted and honestly handed the love letter to me, holding this familiar love letter again. I just felt it was burning my hands. During the 3 years of marriage with Fu Huai in my previous life, countless nights, he repeatedly pestered me, forcing me to read out the shameful words in the love letter. In this new life, I must not leave such a big hidden danger. I must destroy this love letter. As long as these people in the class don't take the initiative to say it, even if Fu Huai finds out that the love letter is missing, He can't suspect me, so I sent away the onlooking crowd. I walked to the trash can at the back of the classroom and quickly tore the love letter to pieces. After destroying the evidence, I finally let out a sigh of relief, my brows relaxed, and I stood up briskly. Turning my head, I saw Fu Huai, covered in injuries, standing quietly at the door of the classroom. I didn't know how long he had been watching me. 03. Now I'm really in trouble. Well, now in this life, Fu Huai will definitely not fall in love with me again, but he might hate me. What would be the consequence of being hated by the future big boss? I didn't dare to think, yet there was someone who was so insensitive to say, "Hey, that poor student, did you see? Our sister Ran doesn't like you at all." That's right. What are you trying to do by writing a love letter? Disgusting. Before, our sister Ran was good to you, but you can't bite the hand that feeds you, right? Don't like. Disgusting. Bite the hand that feeds you. These words clearly reached Fu Huai's ears. He finally raised his dark eyes and looked at me. I just felt my eyes go dark. In this life, I just wanted to keep an ordinary classmate-like distance from Fu Huai, but definitely not to draw hatred in front of him. After thinking for a long time, I decided to strike first. I tried to look as upright as possible and said to him, "Classmate Fu, I don't like you." Fu Huai stared at me without blinking. I was so scared by him that I stuttered for a moment, then forced myself to continue. "It was really wrong of me to tear up the love letter, but I hope you can focus on your studies in the future. There's no possibility between us. In my previous life, I was wrong in giving him too much hope and being too good to him, so that he fell in love with me. So in this life, while we still don't have much interaction, I have to strangle hope in the cradle." After saying that, I nervously waited for his answer. Being humiliated in public and catching me tearing up his love letter, Fu Huai. Such a proud person, must hate me to death. After a long time, he finally spoke. This future head of the Fu family lowered his eyes in inferiority, and a bitter smile curled at the corner of his mouth. "Okay, I'm of humble status and not worthy of Ran. He slightly lowered his head, and inadvertently exposed the scars on his side face and neck. "It's reasonable for you to hate me, 04. Is this still the unpredictable Fu Huai from my previous life? His attitude towards me before was not like this." I tried to keep a straight face and said seriously, "As long as you understand." He softly Ed, "I'm sorry for bothering you, but then again, am I being a bit too harsh?" I stood there, slowly lost in thought. Tearing up the love letter seems, indeed, a bit excessive. Before I could figure it out, a clear and angry voice came. "Ning Ran, you're really going too far." A girl couldn't stand it anymore and finally couldn't help but stand up for Fu Huai. "How can you bully people like this? He just fell in love with you. Do you really have to tear up the love letter?" The girl, being very friendly, went up to pull his sleeve, with a bright smile on her face, just like I was in my previous life. She unreservedly offered a helping hand to Fu Huai. "Fu Huai, don't be afraid, I'll protect you from now on." 05. After I rejected his love letter, Fu Huai really seemed to stop pestering me, and that girl named Tianan started to take the initiative to go to and from school with Fu Huai. She even replaced me and became Fu Huai's new deskmate. She would pester Fu Huai to ask him to explain problems to her. In return, Tianan would bring him cookies she made by herself. The only thing that made me strange was that although I had deliberately distanced myself from him, I still, just like in my previous life, always happened to run into him being bullied. For example, he was made things difficult by the boss when he was working part-time. For example, he was robbed on the way home from school. For example, he was pranked in the classroom. I didn't go to save him. I could only shrink in the corner and watch him struggle alone, being bullied occasionally. When our eyes met, he would just look away and pass by me, covered in scars. The smell of blood on him wafted to my nose, and I found that there were some new injuries on him. In my previous life, I always nagged while helplessly applying medicine to his wounds. This had almost become my habit, so when he passed by me again, I almost blurted out, "Fu Huai, can you bandage your wounds properly?" When he heard me call him, Fu Huai's eyelashes trembled, and there seemed to be a glimmer of light in his eyes. "What's the matter?" I realized I was out of line and stammered, "Nothing, you heard wrong." Another voice interrupted, "Fu Huai, why are you injured again?" Hienan looked worried. "Come on, I'll bandage it for you." Fu Huai returned to his expressionless look. I couldn't quite figure out Fu Huai's thoughts about Hienan. He had always been a loner. How could he get familiar with a stranger so quickly? Until one day, I suddenly realized, even if I didn't come to save him, there would be someone else to save him, no matter who it was. As long as they came to save him, He might love that person as he loved me in his previous life. 06. Recently, news came from the Fu family that they had found the child who had been lost for many years. This day had finally come. My first reaction was to feel relieved. When he was taken back by the Fu family, no one would dare to bully him anymore. However, I didn't expect that something happened even faster than the Fu family's actions. It was the enemies of the Fu family. That day, Heenan was still going home from school with Fu Huai, and I was in the car, witnessing the whole process of Fu Huai being dragged into a car. Heenan's eyes were full of panic, and she shouted anxiously, "Fu Huai, I'll call the police. Don't be afraid, this kind of thing never happened in my previous life." I was stunned for a moment. After reacting, I immediately told the driver to secretly follow the car in front. We followed all the way to the outskirts, and Fu Huai was taken into an abandoned warehouse. I had to quietly hide in the bushes, constantly observing the situation over there, but I waited until evening, and still no one came to save him. I had a bad feeling. I called to inquire about the news. Finally, I found out that Heenan didn't call the police at all. She was originally arranged by the enemies of the Fu family to be by Fu Huai's side, and the reason why the Fu family spread the news that they had found the lost child, in fact, it was to divert the attention of their enemies. The real purpose was to protect the youngest son of the Fu family. I suddenly realized, so after all, no one could save Fu Huai. Hearing this news, I was so anxious that I walked around in circles. The only fortunate thing was that in this life, I had reminded my parents in advance, so we avoided the bankruptcy, so my family was still qualified to negotiate with the kidnappers. Fortunately, the other side just wanted money, and my family had plenty of money now. The negotiation lasted until the next morning. I hid in the small forest outside the warehouse for a whole night, until my family called me, telling me that the negotiation was successful and they would release him immediately. I let out a breath, moved my numb legs, and planned to leave quietly. After all, I still had to keep a distance from Fu Huai, but the next second, I saw the kidnapper come out of the warehouse. There was a lot of blood on his hem. My heart was raised again. The string in my mind that had been tensed all night suddenly broke. Fu Huai, what kind of torture had they put him through? My eyes were stunned by the blood-red color. I trembled and helped Fu Huai up. "Fu Huai, I'll take you to the hospital. Hold on a little longer." He slowly opened his eyes and looked at me for a long time. After a while, he withdrew his gaze, and his tone was distant and strange. "No need to trouble you. I can go by myself." I then remembered that in this life, I had deliberately avoided interacting with him, so until now, I was at most an ordinary classmate to him. Maybe I was spoiled by him in my previous life. I even had a ridiculous thought. The way Fu Huai looked at me should be full of love, desire, and possessiveness. Instead of like this now, clearly bleeding all over, but still politely and coldly rejecting my help. A bit of grievance suddenly welled up in my heart. I stood up abruptly with red eyes. "Fine, Fu Huai, then go to the hospital by yourself." I didn't care about him anymore and turned to leave. The next second, I was pulled into his arms, and the familiar breath surrounded me. He forcefully held my struggling hands, and his face was buried in my neck. A sigh fell by my ear, like a compromise and also like joy. "Darling, why are you still soft-hearted towards me this time?" 07. The familiar tone, the familiar posture. For a moment, I almost thought I had returned to my previous life. My mind went blank for 5 seconds. Finally, I was shocked to realize a fact. Fu Huai was also reborn. How could Fu Huai be reborn too? I was a bit nervous, thinking about what I had done since I was reborn. Well, I tore up his love letter and deliberately distanced myself from him. If this was in my previous life, I might have been forced to stay in bed for 3 days and 3 nights. My mind was working fast, and I quickly came up with a countermeasure. Pretend to be stupid. I must never admit that I was also reborn. As long as I didn't admit it, he couldn't do anything to me. And in this life, my family hadn't gone bankrupt, so he couldn't marry me in the name of an arranged marriage. I forced myself to calm down and pretended not to understand. "What, darling? Are you crazy from being beaten? I just happened to pass by and wanted to help you out of classmate-hood friendship. Don't get the wrong idea." Fu Huai didn't speak for a while. He still held my wrist, and his slight breath fell on my neck, making me feel a bit itchy. In the dilapidated warehouse, the atmosphere became quiet. We were in a strange posture, at a standstill. Just when I finally couldn't stand it and was about to lose my temper, I heard his very soft voice, which would be blown away by the wind. Ran, look, I only have you. From beginning to end, no one has come to save me." He was now cruelly exposing his inner self, uncovering his scars, as if just to get a little pity from me. My expression changed. I thought of Hienan, and I thought of Fu Huai's parents. He slightly turned his head, looking desolate. The right amount of light hit his face. Ran, am I really that annoying? When he lowered his eyes, the light in his eyes dimmed, like a gem losing its color. I had to admit that Fu Huai's face was too deceptive, completely in line with my aesthetic. Otherwise, I wouldn't have pitted him so many times in my previous life. I tried to harden my heart and said dryly, "Don't call me Ran, we're not that familiar." He seemed to laugh, and didn't continue this topic. Instead, he raised his hand and took the leaf stuck in my hair. And his eyes fell on the wound on my arm. He said naturally, "How did you get this wound?" "Classmate Ning, did you fall in the bushes?" I kept a straight face. "Yeah, I fell by accident." "Then I'll have to trouble classmate Ning to take me to the hospital." I nodded and tried to struggle out of his embrace. Fu Huai looked exhausted, leaning closely on my shoulder, and asked weakly, "Can I lean on your shoulder for a while? Just for the sake of being classmates?" Those kidnappers were really scary. "Okay, classmate Fu." I stiffened my body and helped him walk out. I thought for a long time but couldn't figure out why Fu Huai, who was so strong and calm in the previous life, had suddenly become so vulnerable. 08. I didn't really hate Fu Huai. After all, our initial acquaintance was very beautiful. In the previous life, it wasn't until he was recognized by the Fu family that our relationship finally changed. At that time, my family was in a bankruptcy crisis. In desperation, I had to beg Fu Huai. The little pitiful from back then had become the head of the Fu family in the capital. I still remember that night when I knelt on the ground, with tears in my eyes, begging him to save our family for the sake of our past affection. He looked down at me, his expression unfathomable. After a long time, he finally chuckled. "Of course, Ran, but there's one condition." He lifted my chin, and his voice was strong and unassailable. "You have to marry me." The lights flickered, and there was a thunderclap outside. I looked up at him with a pale face, in disbelief, because at that time I was already engaged to my childhood sweetheart, Shin Chang, and was about to marry him, but in the end, the wedding was held as scheduled. I wore the wedding dress I had carefully chosen, but I married Fu Huai. Later, I heard that Shin Chang's family had gone bankrupt. It was Fu Huai who did it. And at that time I was locked in the villa by Fu Huai. After making a big fuss, I still couldn't see Shin Chang. Even though he still provided for me well, I still didn't like being locked up by him and having my actions restricted everywhere. I hated his strength, hated him for infiltrating every aspect of my life in a very strong way, just like a wild beast marking its territory. When I realized it, my whole body was already filled with Fu Huai's aura. 09. After that day, Fu Huai and I maintained a very delicate classmate relationship. But he still had a lot of hostility towards my childhood sweetheart, Shin Chang. And in this new life, I was surprised to find that my feelings for Shin Chang had unconsciously faded. So many times when he invited me to go out, I refused him with various excuses, until that day when he came to invite me to his grandfather's birthday banquet. Shin Chang looked pleading. Ran, please don't reject me anymore, okay? In the previous life, I refused Shin Chang because I had an appointment with Fu Huai for tutoring. I looked at the class schedule. There was no class that day. After all, we had been childhood sweethearts for many years, so I agreed. At this time, the Shin family hadn't gone bankrupt yet, and the birthday banquet was held grandly. There were many people in the banquet hall. Unconsciously, I had drunk several glasses of wine, until my eyes became dizzy and my body became weaker and weaker. Finally, I realized that there was probably something wrong with the wine. To avoid arousing suspicion, I hid in the corner and unlocked my phone to ask for help. However, before I could make a call, my phone was snatched away. I looked up in panic and saw Shin Chang's gentle face. His fingertips slowly stroked my cheek, and the words he said were chilling. Ran, you shouldn't have rejected me so many times. A guess emerged in my mind. I looked at him in surprise and doubt. Did you put the drug in the wine? He sighed. I had no choice. But you've been getting more and more distant from me. Why don't we just make it a done deal tonight, so that you'll always be mine? 10. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself locked in a room. My whole body was a bit weak, and there was a lock on my foot. Unfortunately, Shin Chang was too confident. He didn't expect me to wake up so early, and he didn't believe that I could pick the lock and leave. Coincidentally, I really could pick locks. When I was locked up by Fu Huai in the previous life, I had practiced the skill of picking locks proficiently. This place was not suitable to stay any longer. After checking the surrounding situation, I decisively picked the lock and escaped. There were people from the Shin family everywhere at the banquet. My phone was confiscated, and I could only run downstairs desperately. The drug was gradually taking effect. and my body was getting weaker and weaker. The successive events of the night were destroying my sanity, and my steps were as heavy as if they were filled with lead, but at this time, I heard someone shouting behind me, "Catch her quickly, don't let her run away." The childhood sweetheart who was gentle and polite in my memory had now completely changed his face. I couldn't even imagine what would happen if I was really caught by them. Tears blurred my vision, and fear grabbed me like an invisible hand, out of the corner of my eye. It seemed that a familiar figure flashed by. I immediately turned around and ran towards that figure. When I got closer, I finally confirmed that I had bet right. It was Fu Huai. In an instant, all my fear and helplessness found a support, and the tears that had been in my eyes finally fell down in big drops. The alcohol and the drug were destroying my sanity. Under extreme tension, my thoughts were in a mess, and I could only act on instinct. Before my brain could react, my aggrieved voice had already spilled out, "Honey, save me." Just like in the previous life, whenever I got into trouble and felt guilty, I would call him honey, a Huai in a soft-spoken way, and Fu Huai could never refuse. He always took care of everything for me. The next moment, I was hugged and pushed into the room beside me. The room was pitch black, and Fu Huai's familiar aura surrounded me layer by layer. Suddenly smelling this familiar sandalwood fragrance, my body subconsciously went soft. I thought I wouldn't be affected by him anymore, but now I finally had to admit a fact. Even though I was reborn, I was still trapped in those countless nights of intimate entanglement with Fu Huai and hadn't come out yet. I tried my best to wrap my arms around his neck to steady my weak body. He put his arm around my waist, and the scalding temperature of his palm seeped through the thin fabric and burned on my waist. The steady breath of the person in front of me blew over my sensitive neck, and his cold voice became hoarse. "Classmate Ning, who are you calling honey?" 11. Smelling this familiar sandalwood fragrance again, I actually felt an unusual sense of peace. As soon as my spirit relaxed, I could no longer resist the effect of the drug. Moreover, in the previous life, we were very compatible in that aspect. After marriage, my rationality completely disappeared. I was too lazy to think about what the person in front of me was saying. I grabbed his collar and kissed him fiercely. The next day, I woke up, propping up my body that was almost falling apart. All the memories of last night emerged in my mind, and I felt like the sky was falling. Noticing that I woke up, Fu Huai, in a very familiar, couple manner, habitually kissed the corner of my lips. Oh. I had also called him honey in a daze last night. My cover was blown. Now the sky really fell. I reflected on my mistakes and decided to put on my clothes and run away immediately. Fu Huai called me from behind. Ran. I turned around, saw the red marks on his neck, and quickly looked away. He asked me calmly, "Are you leaving?" I took a deep breath. Since I couldn't pretend anymore, I just came clean. "Fu Huai, since both of us are reborn, I'll tell you clearly. My family didn't go bankrupt in this life, and I will never be locked up by you again." 12. I didn't know if Fu Huai was really giving up. I really didn't see him for several days. The next time I heard news about him, Fu Huai had become the heir of the Fu family, even faster than in the previous life. But I didn't care about all this. The most urgent thing was to settle the score with Shin Chang for drugging me. During this period, my family withdrew all cooperation with the Shin family. I found evidence of tax evasion by the Shin family's company and reported it. As soon as the news spread, the shares of the Shin group plummeted. Shin Chang was so busy that he was in a mess. One day, when I was eating in a restaurant, I ran into Shin Chang, who looked haggard. He seemed to be deliberately blocking me. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he rushed up to grab my hand. Ran, please save my family, I sneered. Did you think of today when you drugged me before? He looked pleading. I just love you so much, Ran. You rejected me so many times before and ignored me. I had no choice but to do this. Believe me. I took out a stack of documents from my bag and mercilessly exposed him. Love me, but you secretly acquired so many scattered shares of our family in the past 2 years. If you add the shares in my hand, wouldn't you be the largest shareholder of the Ning Group? I think what you love is not me, but these shares in my hand, right? Looking at these documents. He finally panicked. A glint of gloom flashed in Shin Chang's eyes, but he still held my hand, looking sincere. I know I was wrong. Forgive me. Okay, you had a crush on me before. Forgive me this time. Ran. Others, seeing us, probably only saw our hands held intimately, as if a boy was coaxing his angry girlfriend, but I just felt cold-hearted. Shin Chang, you really make me sick. Before I could finish speaking, a silver light flashed. Shin Chang took out a sharp knife and pointed it straight at me, looking crazy. Since that's the case, then let's go to hell together. I never expected that Shinchong was so crazy that he would attack me in the crowd. It was too late to dodge. I just wanted to raise my hand to block. However, the expected pain didn't come. There was a sound of a knife stabbing into flesh. I looked up in panic and saw Fu Huai tightly holding me in his arms. His lips pursed. There was a pool of blood on his shoulder. He didn't care about the wound on his shoulder. He subdued Shinchong in a few moves, and the bloody knife fell to the ground. Suddenly encountering this change, the crowd shouted in panic, and the scene became very chaotic for a while. My mind was buzzing. I stared blankly at Fu Huai, and my heart was still beating violently. Before I could say the words of concern, Fu Huai had already red eyes, stared straight at me, with anger in his eyes, and asked word by word, "Ning Ran, even though he treated you like this, you still love him?" My concern in my heart suddenly stopped, and I slowly said. The blood on his shoulder flowed down his arm to his fingertips, but he didn't care at all. He grabbed my hand like a madman, until my hand was completely stained with his blood and aura. He leaned close to my ear, and his voice was as soft as a lover's whisper. Ran, tell me, which hand did he touch? 13. It was the same in the previous life. Fu Huai never allowed me to mention Shinchong. Looking at Fu Huai, who was lying on the bed and sleeping, I finally understood. No wonder he refused to let me see Shinchong at that time. It turned out that he had long known that Shinchong had motives for me. I sighed and went to check his wound that had been bandaged. The doctor said that he needed to rest quietly for the next 2 days and be carefully watched to prevent inflammation. But at night, Fu Huai had a high fever, he murmured, his hot fingertips tightly grasping my sleeve. Ran, don't abandon me again. I looked at him with a complicated expression, standing by the bed and watching him for a long time. Fu Huai recovered very quickly and was discharged from the hospital in a few days. He had been eerily calm these past 2 days, completely unlike the out-of-control appearance when he was smiling and smearing blood on my hand that day. To prevent him from having a sudden high fever again in the middle of the night, I had been sleeping with him recently, until one day, I woke up again. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a familiar chain. I subconsciously raised my wrist and looked, and it was empty. Then I met Fu Huai's gaze. He naturally pulled me into his arms, making a clank sound, and around his pale neck, there was a large, blatant pure, black collar. One end of the chain was connected to the collar. He stroked the chain and calmly put it into my hand. Ran, do you like it? I gently tugged on the chain. Fu Huai raised his head, and the collar just tightly wrapped around his fragile Adam's apple. A soft gasp escaped from his throat. He lifted his eyelids and looked at me coldly. You don't like me locking you up? Then lock me up, okay, Fu Huai. What do you mean by this? He laughed lowly, and his cool fingertips climbed up my wrist, as if being slowly licked by a snake's tongue. Or put one on you here too, and we'll never be separated. His fingertips were clearly cool, but when he gently the inside of my wrist, it was like being ignited by fire, leaving a string of marks. I suddenly withdrew my hand. He noticed my dodge, and the calm on his face finally cracked. The gloom between his eyebrows gradually deepened. What exactly am I lacking compared to that Shinchong? He stared at me intently, almost gritting his teeth as he asked, why do you love him so much? Before I could speak, he laughed to himself. It doesn't matter, Ran, as long as he's dead, you'll be able to love me, right? You can hate me, take revenge on me, take revenge for as long as you want. Fu Huai forcefully grabbed my hand and handed his chain to me. You can lock me up, or put a tracker on me, and control my everything. As long as I can see you. His eyes were sad, like a corrupt and gorgeous flower. I couldn't help it anymore. I suddenly stood up and glared at him. Fu Huai, are you crazy? I've said I don't like Shinchong. He said, I don't believe it. Me, I was almost amused. I had explained so many times these past 2 days, but he still didn't believe me. I nodded and looked down at him on the bed. Fine. Then lock yourself up like this. Believe it or not, I don't care. After saying that, I turned around and left, slamming the door loudly. Fu Huai sat quietly on the bed, like a lifeless puppet, staring blankly in the direction I left. After a while, he finally laughed self-deprecatingly. 14. I was so angry that I walked around in the living room outside for 2 rounds, from morning to night. When I finally calmed down, I found that it was already dark. For a whole day, Fu Huai had been staying in the room and didn't come out. When I realized this, my first thought was that Fu Huai hadn't taken his medicine today. I felt like I was also a bit crazy. I wiped my face and looked at myself in the mirror. Finally, I had to admit, I was also trapped. The bedroom was pitch black. Fu Huai was curled up in the corner of the bed. I switched on the light with a pop, and the room was instantly lit up. The strong light stunned Fu Huai's eyes. but he stared at me without blinking. I walked over and looked at him expressionlessly. "Get up and take your medicine." He just stared at me intently, as if he was afraid that I would disappear the next second. I stood there impatiently, holding the bowl. I put the bowl aside. I directly reached out and grabbed that chain, and pulled it forward. He was caught off guard, and the collar pulled, forcing him to raise his head. I held the medicine bowl in one hand and the chain in the other, and directly poured the medicine into his mouth, but I didn't control the strength well, and poured it a bit too quickly. The medicine water flowed down from the corner of his mouth, across his pale neck, and disappeared into the collar. Fu Huai just quietly endured it, trying to swallow all the medicine. After feeding a bowl of medicine, I casually put the bowl aside, then I grabbed the chain and kissed his lips. The bitter taste of the medicine spread on the tip of my tongue. I didn't care and just kissed him deeply. After the kiss I pulled back slightly and looked steadily into his eyes. "Fu Huai, I like you." I couldn't quite recall when exactly my feelings had changed. Maybe it was when Shin Cheng stabbed the knife towards me, and time again, Fu Huai shielded me with his body. Perhaps it was when he held me close in that abandoned warehouse, calling me darling, or perhaps it was even earlier. I didn't have the urge to dig deeper. I stared at the stunned him and repeated firmly, "Fu Huai, I only like you." I stopped having feelings for Shin Cheng a long time ago in the previous life, and now, it's only you, MMPH. Before I could finish my sentence, Fu Huai's hand shot up to grip the back of my neck, and he kissed me urgently. This kiss was fierce and intense, making it hard for me to catch my breath. I tugged at the chain, trying to make him stop. The collar constricted tightly around his neck, causing a faint sense of dizziness from lack of oxygen. But Fu Huai didn't seem to care at all, continuing the kiss without hesitation. When the kiss finally ended, the only sounds in the quiet room were our soft pants. He leaned down, burying his head in the crook of my neck, his arms encircling my waist, completely enclosing me within his embrace. "Ran, is what you said true?" This was the first time I had ever confessed to someone, and I felt a bit awkward as I nodded. "Of course it's true, but I have to make it clear. You're not allowed to lock me up anymore. As long as you're good, I won't leave." "Got it," he agreed readily. "Okay, I won't lock you up, and you're not allowed to lock yourself up either." This time, he was silent for a long time. I thought about it for a moment and reluctantly made a concession. "Fine, you can lock yourself up occasionally." He smiled, his eyes curving like a child who had finally gotten his favorite candy. I was speechless. I really couldn't understand why this person was so eager to be chained up. Fu Huai smiled and placed the chain back into my palm. "Then don't unlock it tonight, okay?" I was a bit slow to react. "What?" But he had already leaned in, his eyes tinged with a faint red at the corners. "You take the lead, pull it if it hurts. Darling, I'll make you satisfied." I didn't know how much time had passed. Just as I was on the verge of exhaustion and about to fall asleep, Fu Huai gently kissed my eyebrows and eyes. Ran, I will always love you. ###15 Epilogue. A few years later, the wedding of the head of the Fu family became the talk of the town. The grand ceremony was filled with luxury and splendor. I stood in front of the full-length mirror, wearing a white wedding dress that was exquisitely tailored, with layers of lace and pearls adorning it. The dress flowed gracefully to the floor, making me look like a princess straight out of a fairy tale. Fu Huai walked in from behind me. His suit was perfectly fitted, emphasizing his tall and slender figure. His eyes were filled with love and tenderness as he looked at me. Ran, you're the most beautiful bride in the world," he said, his voice soft and affectionate. I turned around and smiled at him. "And you're the most handsome groom." He came closer, took my hand, and placed a gentle kiss on my knuckles. I'd been waiting for this day for so long. The wedding march started playing, and we walked hand in hand down the aisle. The guests were all looking at us with blessings in their eyes. During the vows, Fu Huai held my hands tightly, his eyes never leaving mine. I, Fu Huai, promise to love you, protect you, and cherish you for the rest of my life. No matter what difficulties come our way, I will always be by your side. Tears welled up in my eyes as I replied, I, Ning Ran, promise to be with you, support you, and love you unreservedly. I want to build a future filled with happiness and warmth with you. After we exchanged rings, Fu Huai pulled me into his arms and kissed me passionately. The audience erupted into applause and cheers. That night, in the honeymoon suite, the soft light of the candles flickered. Fu Huai held me in his arms, and we talked about our past lives, the hardships we had endured, and the love that had blossomed between us. Ran, I'm so glad we found each other again in this life, he said, his voice filled with gratitude. Me too. I nestled closer to him. I never thought that our love could be so deep and unwavering. He kissed my forehead. From now on, We'll create more beautiful memories together." As we drifted off to sleep, I felt a sense of peace and contentment wash over me. This was the beginning of our new life together, a life filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. Over the next few years, our lives were filled with a harmonious blend of joy and tranquility. Fu Huai's career continued to soar. Under his shrewd leadership, the Fu Group expanded its business scope both domestically and internationally, venturing into new industries and achieving remarkable success. Despite his busy schedule, he always made time for our family. We had a beautiful little girl. Her big, bright eyes resembled mine, while her stubborn and determined personality was a carbon copy of her father's. Watching her grow up was a daily source of wonder and happiness for us. She was the most precious gift in our lives, a symbol of our deep love. On weekends, we often went on family outings. Sometimes, we would head to the beach, building sandcastles with our daughter, running along the shore, and enjoying the warmth of the sun and the sound of the waves. Other times, we would visit the countryside, exploring the beautiful scenery, breathing in the fresh air, and introducing our daughter to the wonders of nature. One sunny spring day, we decided to have a picnic in a large park. We spread out a checkered blanket on the soft grass, surrounded by blooming flowers and the sweet chirping of birds. Our daughter was running around, trying to catch a colorful butterfly. Fu Huai and I sat side by side, watching her with affectionate smiles on our faces. "Look at her, Ran. She's so full of life," Fu Huai said, taking my hand in his. "Yes, she is. She brings so much laughter and joy to our lives," I replied, leaning my head on his shoulder. We sat there in comfortable silence for a while, enjoying the simple pleasure of being together as a family. Then, Fu Huai turned to me, his eyes filled with a mix of love and mischief. Ran, do you remember how we first met? You were so brave, coming to my rescue without hesitation," he said, a nostalgic smile on his lips. "Of course I remember. Little did I know that it would lead to such a wonderful life with you," I said, looking into his eyes. He leaned in and kissed me gently. "I'm so grateful for that day. If it weren't for you, I don't know what kind of person I would have become." Our daughter ran back to us, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers in her hands. "Mommy, Daddy, look what I picked for you," she said, her face beaming with pride. "They're beautiful, sweetie." "Thank you," I said, taking the flowers from her. She climbed onto Fu Huai's lap. "Daddy, tell me the story of how you and Mommy fell in love again." Fu Huai looked at me, then back at our daughter. "Well, it's a long and wonderful story, my dear. Once upon a time, there was a kind-hearted girl who saved a poor boy. That girl was your mommy, and that boy was me. And from that day on, our fates were intertwined." As he told the story, I listened with a warm feeling in my heart. Looking at my husband and daughter, I realized that I was the luckiest person in the world. Our journey had been filled with twists and turns, but it had led us to this perfect moment, a moment of pure happiness and contentment. The years passed, and our love only grew deeper. We supported each other through every challenge, celebrated every success, and created countless beautiful memories together. Our story was a testament to the power of love, a love that had withstood the test of time and rebirth, and would continue to shine bright for a lifetime.